Hello, everyone, and welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 253. Andrew Eisen here with your weekly podcast goodness. I've got stuff to do tonight. As I was saying before I started recording, I don't want to because it's hot, and when it's hot, I don't want to do anything except just sit here miserable and sweaty and complainy. But I need to do it anyway. So I'm going to try my best to keep this episode to an hour. So I only have two topics tonight, but they're certainly topics that I could yammer on and on about for over an hour easily. So one of the things I'd like to talk about I forgot to talk about episode 3 of What If last week. So this week I'll talk about episodes 3 and 4. I'll save that to the end of the show, just in case, anyone wants to duck out for spoilers. So in the meantime, let's talk about superhero movies in general. I like superhero stuff, be it comics or movies or what have you. Generally a fan. Hello, Lindy. The movie's quality varies, but in general, I would say that I am a big superhero dork, so I try to see all the superhero movies. I've even seen, Meteor Man, which is actually better than you'd think it is. So I was looking at Netflix the other day, and I noticed Green Lantern. I don't know when it got there, but it got there at some point. The Ryan Reynolds movie from a decade ago. And that was one of the superhero movies that I've never seen. So I didn't watch it. Because it looks terrible, which is why I didn't see it in the first place. And I heard it's terrible. So I never really sought it out. But I still kind of want to check it out just to see it. Because Green Lantern feels like it's going to be one of those movies that is a misfire, yes, but is a misfire in a myriad of fascinating ways. Or maybe it's just really boring. I don't know. But it was nearly 2 hours long, and I was like, I don't want to. Also, it was late, and I don't want to stay up that late to watch Green Lantern. I got better things to do, like sit here and sweat. That got me thinking about all the superhero movies that I've missed. I've tried to see as many as I can, because again, big dork for superhero stuff. But I did miss Green Lantern, but it's on Netflix, so I can catch that. Sadly, the rest of the DC movies that I've missed, I think are all on HBO Max, and I don't have HBO Max. Maybe HBO Max has like a 30-day free trial or something I can partake of and just knock out all the stuff I'm missing. So what am I missing from the DC side? I'm missing Batman v Superman, Justice League, The Suicide Squad and Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman 84, Joker, if you want to count that one. Think that's everything? Yeah, I think that's everything. Interestingly, all the movies that looked bad are the ones I haven't seen. Yeah, I didn't see Batman v Superman or Justice League or the Suicide Squad Wonder Woman 84 I didn't see. It does look bad, but I didn't see because, pandemic. Still would like to see it though. The first one was pretty good. I didn't like it as well as many did. I felt it really suffered in the third act, but the first two acts were solid. Wasn't really blown away by Man of Steel. Saw that in the theater back when that came out. Yeah, it doesn't work. There's a lot I like about it. I mean, there are moments in the film that I really enjoy. I mean, it's about a super strong dude who punches things and they explode. I mean, that's fun to watch. But movie rather left me cold. I don't think the themes or characters or any of that really coalesces into a good movie. Which is what kind of soured me on follow-ups to that film. I saw the trailer for Batman v Superman. First of all, they call it Batman v Superman. Not even versus, just v Superman. Like it's a legal, like it's a court proceeding. Dawn of Justice, and I'm still amazed that they actually kept that title because it's terrible, and they should be embarrassed. And that looked terrible, and Justice League looked terrible, so I never saw them. I would like to see them, because they got superhero. They got Batman and Superman in it, gosh darn it. Why did that get... Lindy says the Suicide Squad is surprisingly fun. Yeah, the Suicide Squad looks like a lot of fun. The new one, the James Gunn one. I'm wondering why Lindy's... is it because of the word suicide? Is that why your comment got quarantined? YouTube, you silly goose. Learn context, YouTube. This is 2021. Surely your all-knowing algorithm can figure out context. So maybe at some point I'll get in, or I'll just splurge for a month of HBO Max so I can. Joker looks awful too. I still want to see it. I hope that when I finally watch these movies, I like some of them. I hope I like all of them, but they look pretty bad. Actually, The Suicide Squad looks great. I'm excited to see that, but not going to the theater right now, so... yeah. So maybe maybe if I splurge for a month of HBO Max, I'll do a little catching up on the DCEU video series, my thoughts on these films. So then I was browsing, Disney Plus, and I noticed that X-Men Dark Phoenix was streaming there. So I did a couple clicks, and they have, I think, all the X-Men movies. Didn't see Logan, but I've seen that, so it doesn't matter. And I've missed most of the X-Men movies. I've seen the first X-Men, X-Men 2, First Class, and Logan, and the 2 Deadpool movies, if you want to count those. Otherwise generally known as the good ones. I did not see X-Men The Last Stand, which was the third one, because it looked terrible. I have since heard it is indeed terrible. Saw First Class. I thought the first movie's alright. It's enjoyable. This was back in the late 90s, so you took what you could get, and it was fun. It had a lot to enjoy. 2 may even have been a step up. First Class, pretty good. Did not see Origins because it looked awful, and I have heard that it's awful. I did not see The Wolverine. It looks okay, and I've heard it ranges from okay to pretty good. Didn't see Days of Future Past or Apocalypse or Dark Phoenix because they all look awful, and I've heard they are awful. I still want to see them, so maybe I'll do Andrew catches up on the superhero movies that he missed series of videos at some point, if I can work up the initiative to actually watch them. Like when I saw Green Lantern, I'm like, oh, Green Lantern, I should watch that. It's 2 hours. I don't know if I wanna. Which is, it's funny because, so a week or two after I recorded the monthly movie mini reviews, the part 3, 2 or 3 with my sister, one of the movies she had watched in July was Cruella. And, so like the week after we recorded that, I was on Disney Plus, and Cruella had come off of Premier Access. I'm like, oh, hey, I could watch that. And then I saw that it's 2 hours and 16 minutes long. And I find the older I get, the closer to not being alive I get, however much more time I have, the less likely I am to watch longer movies. I'm like, I don't have time for this. Why is Cruella 2 1/4 hours? The backstory of Cruella de Vil really needed an epic length film to tell, huh? Nope. I have an excellent connection, but that thing is... oh, there we go. Should come back anytime now. Let's see. There we are. I'm back. I have an back anytime now. There we are. Yeah, that was my end. I don't know what happened there. Where's my chat? There's my chat. Okay, so Lee says, you just had to say about not having much time on Earth. Now that gives me hope. I don't understand why it's PG-13 though, because it doesn't seem like PG-13 like type movie. Not sure which film you're talking about, but you mean Cruella is PG-13, is it? So I don't know how much y'all missed. Cruella is where's the MPAA rating on this thing? Do I have to IMDb? IMDb. Curlia, says Lee, yeah. Cruella de Vil, Cruella de Vil. She's a Cruella and she's evil or something. Yes, PG-13. Why? Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen it either. I remember thinking it's like, what's the backstory going to be? That Dalmatians killed her parents, and so she's going to get revenge on the dogs. And apparently that's, like, at least part of the plot. That's like, are you kidding? Apparently dogs kill her mom. So her mom gets eaten by Dalmatians, I guess, and that's why it's PG-13. So, because we needed to know that backstory. Will I ever watch this stuff? I don't know, because again, all the movies... It's funny, because with the exception of the most recent films, Wonder Woman 84, I would have seen if we weren't in a pandemic. I would have gone to see that. The Suicide Squad, I absolutely would have seen. Same with same with Black Widow and Shang-Chi. I'm really looking forward to seeing all those movies, but can't go to the theater, so I have to wait until they're available for me to watch. Interestingly, my drive-in is well, it's not mine. Is doing a double bill of Shang-Chi and Black Widow, and I thought I could go to the drive-in, but it's showing them in the wrong order. It's showing Shang-Chi and then Black Widow. Well, I want to watch them in release order, and yes, I am a big enough dork where that absolutely matters to me. So, instead, Black Widow comes off of premiere access on October 6th, something like that. So about a month. And Shang-Chi hits Disney Plus, I think, October 18th. So I can wait. I can wait. It's fine. It's fine. Although I've read that Shang-Chi's actually doing pretty decent box office this weekend, so that's nice. I do hope the theater industry doesn't die. I'm not going to the theater, though. Go away, little buzzing flying thing. But that's just me. So... hopefully y'all are being, hopefully y'all are safe and healthy, whatever you decide to do. So, with that out of the way, did I miss any more superhero movies that I've not seen? Oh, the Amazing Spider-Man movies. And Venom. So I've not seen Amazing Spider-Man or Amazing Spider-Man 2 because they looked terrible, so I didn't bother seeing them. In fact, I would think I was in a doctor's office, and I was like on morphine for the pain, not just for fun. And I had to sit there for hours, and they're like, hey, we can put on a movie. I'm like, hey, I haven't seen Spider-Man. Put that on. And I fell asleep. Could have been the morphine, but the movie also seemed to be... Like, the only thing I remember is Spider-Man, like, gets his leg shot or something. I think he gets shot on the leg. Oh, I can't go save Gwen Stacy or whatever the hell he's doing. And then New York is like, no, go Spider-Man. And he's like, yes, go Spider-Man. And then suddenly he can run on his leg, which has a bullet in it. I'm like, well, that's stupid. I'm high on morphine, and that's still stupid. Or I was hallucinating that. And I think there's a scene where he has nothing to whip onto, and everyone moves a bunch of cranes, because there's just cranes all over the place. So they just move all the cranes into the right position so he can whip, and I don't know. It looks terrible. Also, Peter Parker comes off like an abusive asshole in that film, at least the bits I saw and remember. Again, I slept through most of the movie because I was high. So, does that count as being high? I was sleepy. I don't know if it was the morphine or the movie or a combination of the two, but yeah, I kept falling asleep. So yeah, I need to see the two Amazing Spider-Man movies, even though they look terrible, and Venom, which another movie I did not see because it looks terrible. Now, if there's one movie that I'm definitely skipping and probably will never watch, is Morbius. Because one, screw Jared Leto, and two, just why? Why? Why, oh why? That looks terrible. I mean, you know, maybe it's good. Who knows? But, oh, and likewise, I'm not really interested in seeing Venom 2, because I didn't see the first one. Am I judging movies on their marketing? No. But I am making a decision on whether to see a movie based on its marketing. So if you market to me and you don't interest me, it doesn't mean your movie's bad, it just means your marketing's not very good. So. Alright. So, what if... I forgot to talk about last week. So let's talk about What If Episode 3. What If Episode 3 was the one that came after Episode 2. And it proposed, what if someone killed all the Avengers? Huh. Alright. So the first one was, what if Peggy Carter gets a super soldier serum instead of Steve Rogers? The answer? Not much changes. You still get essentially beat for beat the same first Captain America First Avenger movie. Oh, there's some differences, and it's still fun, but for the most part, same movie. So I was pretty pleased with the second movie, with the second episode, which said, what if the Ravagers kidnapped young T'Challa instead of Peter Quill? Do you just get Guardians of the Galaxy only with Black Panther in the lead? No, you actually get a very different movie. Pretty much the galaxy becomes a better place because T'Challa is just that awesome of a guy. There's a what if long ago in old comics, so that's nothing new. There's a what if long ago in old... I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. Are you talking about the Peggy Carter story is in one of the What If comics? Or are you saying that What If, as a concept, is from the comics? If that's what you're saying, then yes, it is. What if as a concept is not new to the series on Disney Plus? That's an actual line of comics. If that's what you mean. The comic books have a what if in the yes. What if what if the show on Disney Plus is adapted from the what if line of comics? So that was pretty cool. You didn't just get the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, you got something very different, which was neat. So in the third episode, it's presented kind of like it's during the Fury is trying to recruit everyone into the Avengers. That's all right. And the Avengers keep dying. So he's like, okay, Tony Stark, you should be an Avenger. And Tony Stark goes, bah. He's like, oh no. Thor, you should be an Avenger. And Thor goes, bah. Oh no. Hawkeye, you should be, bah. Oh no. Someone's killing all the Avengers. We can't have Avengers if they're all dead. So essentially it's a mystery as to who is killing the Avengers. Who would want to? Who would be able to? So it's an interesting conceit. It's also pretty dark because all of the Avengers die. They're all murdered, and the Hulk goes out pretty gruesomely. Lee asks, "Is it anything like the comics?" I don't. It's exactly like the comics. I don't recall the 4 stories I've seen actually being in the comics, but I've not read even most of them, so I don't know if the individual ideas are directly adapted from stories in the comics, but the general idea is the same. Marvel Zombies, from what I understand, Marvel Zombies is going to be one of the what if episodes, but I don't think Marvel Zombies was actually a what if story. I think it was just a Marvel Zombies story. Or I'm remembering that wrong. Doesn't really matter. Anime Momo, hello. Good to have you. Talking about episode 3, right. So, someone's knocking off the Avengers. I like this episode because while it takes place during, well, a couple of the movies, it takes place partially during Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk, and Thor. And the first part of Captain America, I guess. Or first part of the Avengers. It's not really following along the beats of a specific movie. It takes place during a bunch of the movies, but it's not really, hey, how does the movie play out differently if we tweak this value? It's, how does the MCU play out differently if we tweak this value? And that's pretty interesting to see. I also like the idea of having a murder mystery. Who's killing the Avengers? Why are they killing the Avengers? How the hell is anyone managing to kill the Avengers? The problem is the story is not what if someone killed the Avengers. It's what if we changed this value, which results in someone killing the Avengers. The problem with the story is that if they tell you what changed, what if blank, if they tell you what that blank is, then you immediately know who it is. The problem I have with this particular episode is there's no way really to deduce who the bad guy is. You can figure it out, especially if you're a big comics dork. I figured it out. Because if you're a big comics dork, you're like, okay, who has a power set that would allow them to do what we've seen so far? You're like, okay, it's got to be someone with this type of power. Who has that type of power? Okay, it's got to be one of these characters. And there have been like 2 or 3 people who've been this person, so it could conceivably be one of these 3 people. So I nailed it. I got it right. But I didn't deduce it. I just used my knowledge of comic books to kind of figure out who it kind of had to be. And I don't know how you fix that. So, Lee says, if it's anything like the comics, then it's Marvel in another dimension. Yeah, it's kind of presented like that. It's doing the multiverse thing, I think, where, different choices branch out into a different timeline, and the Watcher's just, watching it like the perv he is. I'll get to the Watcher a bit more when I talk about episode 4, though. So, okay, I'm going to spoil it now, so if you don't want it spoiled, off you go, and you can listen to this on iTunes or whatever. So it's Hank Pym. Hank Pym, who is Ant-Man, in this case he's actually Yellow Jacket, is murdering all the Avengers. Why? Well, because what changed is Hope Van Dyne, his daughter, Evangeline Lilly's character in the movie, was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and she died in the line of duty. So Hank, having already lost his wife, Janet Van Dyne, Michelle Pfeiffer's character in the movie, he's very upset, and so he's murdering all the Avengers to get back at Nick Fury because, his family is gone now because of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay. That works. The problem is if you start the episode with, what if Hope Van Dyne died in the line of duty as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, well, then you know exactly who it's got to be. I just wish there was a way that you could deduce from what's in the episode what's going on. Instead, it's like, well, someone is invisibly killing all the Avengers, so it's got to be someone with, invisibility or telekinesis or get very small. Hulk explodes, which is pretty gnarly. And if you know your comics history, the characters that have beaten the Hulk include the Wasp, who shrunk herself down and flew into his ear canal and stung him in the brain. So if you know your comics, you're probably thinking, okay, it's probably, it needs to be, it could be like Ghost from the second Ant-Man movie, or it could be Ant-Man, which could include Hope Van Dyne, could include Ant-Man or the Wasp or Yellow Jacket. So it could be Hank Pym, it could be Scott Lang, it could be Hope Van Dyne, it could be one of those characters. Unfortunately, there's really no way to deduce it, which is made the episode less fun. And it also kind of ends on so what happens if all the Avengers die? That's okay. There's others. There's Captain Marvel, and Captain America was still frozen at the time, so you couldn't kill him, and you could always go get Rhodey and War Machine, and there are he'll just get other people. It's fine. It's fine. I really enjoyed the where they make fun of how gorgeous Thor is, because Thor is wandering around and Phil Coulson is reporting on him. It's like, what are you seeing, Phil Coulson? And Phil Coulson says, I see an enormous, amazingly attractive man with glorious hair. He's like, what? And he goes, it's an accurate description, sure, sir. And so Hawkeye is up in his, crane basket, taking aim at... Oh, sorry, he's lefty. Taking aim at Thor, and he's going, my God, he does have amazing hair. That was pretty funny. I think it went a bit too far when they're, literally sniffing his corpse. And it's like, my God, he smells of lavender. I'm like, okay, that's a little gross. I imagine they're probably doing that to try and undercut how kind of horrifying this whole episode is. Again, Hulk explodes. It's really, you're like, oh God, oh, what happened? They need to do what if Spider-Man didn't lose the black suit. Don't recall that story, but sure. What if Peter Parker, kept the symbiote? So I know they do. So I know they're. There's 5 more. I know they're doing Marvel Zombies at some point. I know they're doing something with Ultron. I know they're doing something with Killmonger. What else? That may be all. So, 3rd episode. I think the 3rd episode genuinely would have been my favorite of the 3 if the viewer were able to actually deduce what was going on using what's in the episode. Also, the sound-alike they got for... Was it Lake Bell? The sound-alike they got for Scarlett Johansson for Black Widow does a really nice job, because I sat through the episode not sure if that was her or not. I was like, I don't think that's her. And it's like, well, maybe? No. That was not Liv Tyler as Betty Ross. And they replaced Edward Norton with Mark Ruffalo in the Incredible Hulk scenes, which is interesting, but not unsurprising. Still a good episode. So moving on to episode 4. Episode 4 is, what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? And I read that title, I'm like, is he gonna become Iron Man? No, they don't mean his heart got damaged. They mean, do you remember in Doctor Strange, he had a girlfriend? Do you remember her? I think it's played by Rachel McAdams. Do you even remember her name? It's probably like Susan or something, right? So, for some reason, she's in the car with him when he crashes and loses his hands. So instead of crushing his hands, she dies. So he's very sad. He loses his heart, you see. Which is kind of weird, because that can't be the only thing that happened that changed, because they're clearly very affectionate towards each other, and they weren't in the movie. They were a thing, but they weren't anymore. So, something else changed there, but that's alright. Fine setup. What if instead of losing... The thing I've never got about Doctor Strange is he lost his hands. No, he didn't. He still has both of them, and they work fine, because he can do all this weird, nimble, dexterous finger stuff to create magic spells. I've never understood that. Oh, I can't use my hand. Yeah, you can. You make weird really specific, intricate, dexterous finger gestures all the time. He did not lose his hand. The conceit doesn't work. Oh well. So the episode says, okay, what happens instead of his hands getting crushed, he loses Susan, and he's very sad about it. Instead of being sad about himself, he's sad about another person. How does that change things? Magic healed them. Fair enough. In which case, his hands are fine again. He can go right back to surgery. That's never really been clear, though. It's always, maybe I missed an issue here or there, or a side comment in the movie, but it's like his hands are supposed to be like unusable. But they seem fine to me. He can pick things up. He's not shaken. He can do really intricate hand gestures. Jared says, well, he's using magic. Great, then you're healed. There's no problem. It's never worked for me. Jared says, paralyzed man could walk, so this should be possible. Yeah, I agree. But again, it's not a problem that he has to overcome. He's just, I learned magic to get over it, so I'm good now. It just bothers me when that's still brought up as, I lost my hands. It's like, yeah, but you can clearly use them now. And he also clearly didn't need his hands to learn the magic that he needs to fix his hands, because his hands worked well enough to do the magic that makes his hands work. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. I still like Doctor Strange just fine. It's just something that's never really made any damn sense to me. So in the first episode, if Peggy Carter gets a super soldier serum, what changes? Nothing much. Second episode, if the Ravagers pick up T'Challa rather than Peter Quill, what changes? Quite a bit. Different dude in that situation makes a bunch of different choices and actually ends up making the universe a better place. Huh. Neat. Third episode. What happens if someone kills all the Avengers? You get a different team of Avengers. Not much, honestly. Fourth episode. What happens if Doctor Strange loses his heart instead of his hands? The universe ends. Yeah. That's how this one ends. So he uses the Eye of Agamotto, the green jewel around his neck that he uses to reverse time, to go back in time and try to save Susan. And infusing magic in your body is what I believe is what fixes the part. Infusing in a specific part, like hands. Right, which he didn't need his hands to do. So Lee says only reason he isn't being a brain surgeon is because his hands got hurt. Yeah, but they're fine enough to do magic, so... I mean, his hands always looked fine to me. He didn't seem to be unable to grasp things, or... Again, maybe it just wasn't played right. In the books that I read anyway, or the movie, I never got any indication that there was anything even remotely wrong with his hands. Hey, Chicago. But it's a barely worth it. It's just something I find kind of funny. I don't think it's done as well as it could be. So what is Rachel McAdams' character's name? In what I can't remember that character's name. She is such a nothing entity in the movie. Susan. It's Susan. Do I want a wobbly-handed person doing your surgery? No, I don't. But he doesn't have wobbly hands. That's literally my point. There's nothing wrong with his hands. I mean, immediately after the crash, his hands are all pinned together and stuff, but he seems fine a couple months later. Little physical therapy, you're good. He lost some motion control. Doesn't appear to have. Again, it's not shown. You have to kind of make this up in your head, Ken. It's like, well, I guess while he can be incredibly quick and dexterous with his fingers, he has trouble actually grasping with any dexterity like scalpels or surgical implements. Like, he can hold his hands and fingers in different positions, but he just can't grasp things well enough to use them in a fine way. Okay, fine. I made that up, though. That's not actually shown in the movie. His hands seem fine. The other guy, whose name I don't remember, he gets his magic taken away and he can't walk. Before Doctor Strange had magic, his hands seemed fine. They were at least good enough to learn the magic to fix his hands. Again, I would have liked it to have been done a little bit differently, because I never got any indication that there was anything really wrong with his hands. Right post-crash, his fingers are all pinned together. And there is, I think, one scene in the film where he's doing some grip strength physical therapy. But other than that, seems fine. He fishes things out of his pockets. He handles money and a watch, and he opens doors. Seems fine. Maybe there's an offhanded line in the movie that I missed where he's like, yeah, but I just can't grasp a scalpel anymore. I can turn a doorknob, but this fine motor control needed to hold a scalpel, I don't have it anymore. That may be a line in the movie, and I just forgot. I've only seen the movie once. And again, this is not this. If I were to give the movie a numerical score, this does not degrade. This doesn't change my score. It's just something that I've always felt was kind of weird about Doctor Strange. You know what they should have done? Doctor Strange should make all those weird, intricate gestures with his toes. Like he sits, he's like floating in the air, kind of, on the cross-legged thing with his feet out in front of him, his toes doing weird things because he can't do it with his hands because his hands are crushed. That would actually be kind of neat. But nope. The implication is he couldn't control his hand shaking, meaning he couldn't be a brain surgeon. Yeah, the implication is there, again, if you bring that in there, but that's not in the movie. That's not shown, I don't think. And again, maybe it is, and if it is, I'm just forgetting. Again, you can come up with, oh, well, you see, it's probably, probably. You have to make something up to make it make sense, because it's not shown in the movie. He doesn't seem to... I mean, he says he can't do surgery anymore, but it's not clear why. His hands, again, seem fine. They're not mangled. He can use... He's incredibly quick and dexterous with his fingers. He can pick up and manipulate objects even before he learns magic. So I don't know what's wrong with his hands. It's not really clear. Again, you can make stuff up. You can have your headcanon. And that's not wrong. And again, I want to be clear, Doctor Strange is fine. I don't, Doctor Strange is shit. No, that's not what I'm saying. Doctor Strange is fun. I just think they could have done a better job with the conceit behind Doctor Strange. It's because he had inhuman precision while practicing surgery. Okay, sure. But there's nothing that shows that he doesn't still have that. Or that he really did have inhuman precision. He's just a very competent, he's just really good at what he does. Again, they do say that he can't use his hands anymore. They just don't show it. How should they show that? Like him having difficulty picking things up, not being able to grasp things, having really mangled hands. Put some damn scars on his hands, for crying out loud. He should have some really, his hands should look like Deadpool's face. There is actually some makeup on Strange's hands, at least in parts of the movie. I don't know if they keep that up throughout the movie. But he does have some makeup. Benedict Cumberbatch does have makeup on his hands to show scars, but doesn't work for me. Maybe it works for you. And judging by the chat just going to the ends of the earth to explain this, I guess it works for you. Doesn't work for me, though. Let's see. Maybe they cut out sections of them struggling with items for time constraints. Yeah, maybe they did. Very possible. I mean, again, as I mentioned, to be fair, they do show him with his hands pinned together right after the crash, and they do show at least one scene of him doing some grip strength physical therapy. But again, a couple of months later, hands seem fine. I don't know. I think he's just really mopey. Trying to eat and the food falls off the fork? Yeah. Sure. Anything. Actually, it is. Right at the beginning, the other doctor can't perform the surgery because he doesn't have the necessary precision. I don't... I mean, I didn't get any sense that he's superhuman, just that he's really good. Better than the other guys, and he's not shy about telling. I do remember the scene where I don't remember him taking over for anyone. I remember him being in surgery and being a snot, kind of being distracted and talking about music and telling the other guy to cover his watch because it's making too much noise. But again, as I mentioned, there could be a scene or a side comment in the film that I'm not remembering. That's totally possible. Maybe he lost his self-confidence after the crash. Maybe he did. Again, but that's something we're bringing into it. Irrelevant says, whatever, it was an awesome movie anyway. I agree. I totally agree. I love Doctor Strange. I think it's pretty great. I love... It has one... Doctor Strange has one of my favorite boss battles, climaxes. That whole Dormammu, I've come to bargain thing. We beat the big, our protagonist standing in a big CGI space. Yeah, that again. But it was so clever because you don't punch something to win. I really liked the ending of Doctor Strange. I thought that was really cool. He has difficulty holding the teacup in the magic meeting? I don't remember that. Like I said, I could totally be misremembering stuff. He is stupidly arrogant. Anyway, back to episode 4 of What If. So, he goes back in time to save Rachel McAdams, whatever her character's name is. But he can't, because no matter what he does, she dies anyway. And the Ancient One shows up and says, yeah, her death is an absolute point. It can't be moved. It's going to final destination her if whatever you try to change. So he's like, okay, you drive. They still get in a crash. Okay, I'm going to just stay in my lane. They get rear-ended. Okay, we're going to go in another direction. A boulder falls on their car. Okay, I'm going to stand her up. She dies in like a building fire later that night. Huh. So Doctor Strange says, okay, well, I am going to... I do not accept that her death is an absolute point that cannot... in the timeline that cannot be changed. So I am going to spend centuries researching the ancient magics and absorbing power from interdimensional beasties. Possibly including the big tentacle monster from the first episode of What If? Maybe it's the same tentacle monster. I'm sure that tentacle monster. Oh, so all of us tentacle monsters look alike, huh? Oh yeah, well I can't tell you humans apart. You all look the same to me. Friggin' racist. So he absorbs power from a bunch of interdimensional beasties to get the power needed to save Rachel McAdams. Whatever her character's name is, and I honestly cannot remember her damn name. Unfortunately, and he does, she lives. Unfortunately, doing that literally destroys the universe. Including Rachel McAdams. So, that sucks. And the Watcher's like, hey, I saw what you did. He's like, well, fix it. Nah, man, I just watch. That's what I do. Bye. And so the universe ends. At least the universe, that timeline's universe. Christine Palmer. Thank you, Chicago. I could not remember that character's name at all. Episode 4 of What If? The Marvel series currently airing on Disney+. So, I finished that episode and I was like, wow. I feel kind of sorry for any parents who let their small children stay up past midnight to watch episode 4 of the show. I imagine there were a lot of little small children bawling their eyes out because everybody in the universe died. I kind of love that. I don't know why in this timeline Rachel McAdams' death is a fixed point or whatever. Because it isn't in another timeline. That seems kind of contrived and arbitrary. And it's also particularly cruel. You know? What if him busting his hands was the fixed point that he tried to change and ended up destroying the universe. Would that have worked better? Maybe. So I read a couple of reviews on this episode, and someone mentioned that Christine Palmer should have had some say in her fate. Like, Doctor Strange didn't give her a choice whether she wanted to be saved from this fixed point in the timeline or not. Narratively fair, but realistically, I don't know that makes any sense. It kind of reminds me of a wonderful movie called Reanimator, where Herbert West, played by Jeffrey Combs, Dan, his roommate, comes home and finds his cat dead in the fridge. He's like, Herbert! He's like, what? What are you doing in my fridge? Because the fridge was in his room, I guess, if I'm remembering it right. He goes, my cat's in there. He goes, yeah, it's dead. He goes, yeah. He's like, what the hell, man? He goes, well, your cat died. I put it in the fridge to preserve it so it wasn't just, rotting on the kitchen counter for 8 hours until you got home. He's like, well, I mean, it was horrible finding the cat in the fridge. He's like, yeah, I imagine it would be. He's like, why didn't you, leave a note or something? He's like, and what would the note say, Dan? Cat dead, details later? It's a fair point. What exactly is Doctor Strange supposed to say to Christine Palmer? So, Christine, I'm actually me from the future. I traveled back in time because you're going to die tonight. I've tried saving you several dozen times, but apparently your death is a fixed point in the timeline, and I can't do anything to stop it. So, I'll leave it to you, Christine Palmer. Would you like me to learn some of the old mystic arts so I can attempt to keep you from dying horribly tonight? And let me be clear, you don't just die tonight, you die bad. You die in pain and in fear. It's really bad. No matter what I do, you're either crushed to death in a car or you die in a building fire. It's pretty gnarly. But, this is your choice. So, would you like me to study more magic so I can perhaps make you not die? Or should we just say, it's your time and let's get in the car and enjoy our last 20 minutes together before you die horribly mangled in a car wreck? Narratively, I understand the objection that Christine has really no agency in the story. And narratively, Doctor Strange is making all the choices for her. Sure. And a fair criticism. But realistically, even if you could convince Christine that you're not just high, and making dumb and pranking her, I can't imagine anyone being like, no, Dr. Steven, because we're in a relationship, Steven. No, let's just enjoy our last 20 minutes tonight before I die in fear and in pain as I am gruesomely mangled in a car wreck. No need to, try and save me from that. It is a fixed point in the timeline, after all. I understand the criticism from a narrative perspective, but practically I just don't see that working in any way. And some people are criticizing Doctor Strange as the old one, and other people are telling him, and Wong is telling him, don't mess with the timeline stuff. Sure. But what do you know? I'm pretty sure this fixed point is a fixed point, and I'm pretty sure... You could be full of shit. You could have your... I refuse to believe that Christine's death is a fixed point. Who fixed it? Who decided that Christine has to die? And if she does... Or why would they... I, Doctor Strange, have absolutely no reason to believe your completely unfounded, unsupported assertion that my love's death is a fixed point in the timeline and that the entire universe will collapse upon itself if this one person doesn't die. I don't believe you. I have no good reason to believe you. If I can save her, I'ma do it. Even if I have to steal the soul of a tentacle monster. And all them tentacle monsters look the same to me. Because I'm a racist. Disney Plus is trash? As a service? Or... I disagree. I think it's... competitively priced, and I think it has a lot of shows that I enjoy watching. So for me, it's a worthwhile subscription. But your mileage may vary if the service itself, like for instance Hulu, I absolutely can't stand using Hulu. Forget that its library. I can't, as an actual piece of, as a technological platform, I can't stand using it. It doesn't work very well. It's hard to navigate. It's hard to browse. The video player doesn't work very well. Ads don't load proper. Well, actually, the ads load perfectly. The video doesn't load properly after the ad roll is done. I hate Hulu. So I've had none of those problems with Disney Plus. I think it could probably... its layout could probably use a few tweaks here and there. Overall, I think it does pretty well. And it has a bunch of shows that I enjoy watching. Now, if there's nothing on the service that you enjoy watching, then yeah, not for you. Like Peacock's streaming service, or Tubi, not Tubi. What was it? What was the one that died? that like it was only watchable on a mobile phone. I forget what it was, but it died. There's nothing on the platform I wanted to watch. So, let's see. Disney wants to buy Spider-Man off of Sony so they can own all Marvel characters. I imagine they do. And I imagine Sony wants to keep Spider-Man because they need a franchise. I let my 4-year-old watch Dying Light and 7 Days to Die playthroughs. It's more educational. It's more educational than literally any programming on Disney Plus. Okay. I mean, seems hyperbolic, but alright. Love the original timeline of Doctor Strange better. At least his hands getting hurt wouldn't have killed anyone. Yeah, it's kind of weird. You have to wonder if in the other timeline, is his hands getting crushed a fixed point? Is it not necessarily Palmer, it's just that event? I don't know. Who fixed the point? Why is it a fixed point? Why does the universe collapse if the fixed point changes? Don't know. Maybe we'll find out later. What's interesting is that the Watcher seems to be progressively having more and more of a presence as we go episode to episode. So as we get through the last 5 episodes of this, I think it's 5 episodes. I think it's 9 in total. We might see the Watcher really taking an interest, or even start poking at things. Be interesting to see where that goes. This what if isn't like Dragon Ball Z, where it would make a different timeline. Well, it is a different timeline, so I'm not sure what you mean. Matthew says, and yet the universe did collapse. So yeah, it turns out they were right. But that's the thing, right? I have had people who care about me tell me that if I don't believe in God, that I will go to hell, where I will suffer forever. I will be tortured for all of eternity because I don't believe in God. I have had people I know in my life tell me this. And they tell me this, presumably because they really care for my immortal soul. And they don't want me to be tortured for all eternity, so I should believe in God. I don't. Even though people who love me and have my best interests at heart assert with all seriousness and all urgency that I really need to do this, because if I don't, this horrible thing will happen, I have no reason to believe that they're correct. Even if when I die, I wake up in hell suffering, burning in a lake of lava or whatever, I'll be like, well, shit. That person was right. Would I feel like an asshole? I'd probably be too preoccupied with the eternal suffering to feel like an asshole, but no, I wouldn't. At all. Because even though these people I'm talking about ended up being correct, there was absolutely no reason for me to believe what they said. Their assertions did turn out to be true, but they had no basis on which to make said claim, and I had no reason to accept that proposition because it was completely unsupported by any available evidence. So I certainly don't. So along those lines, I don't begrudge Doctor Strange not believing people, because, yeah, the Old One and Wong both said, don't do this, the universe will collapse. Why would it? There's absolutely no evidence I've seen no evidence to suggest that the universe would collapse if this one person doesn't die tonight. Why would that even be the case? That's absurd. You have to do better than simply asserting that it's true. I mean, I know you think it's true, but why? So I didn't have a problem with Doctor Strange. Certainly sucking the souls out of various tentacle monsters that all look the same. I'm very racist. That's probably like, this seems like a bad thing. I'm also getting evil goatee going on here, and my eyes are getting sullen. I'm starting to look evil. That's a red flag, certainly, especially narratively. But I certainly disagree with the critiques I have heard. Well, Doctor Strange should have listened to other people who made baseless assertions that nevertheless did turn out to be true. Well, poop. Alright, let's see. What's the chat talking about? Jared's not a fan of Disney, that's why you don't have it. Disney Plus, I would assume. That's a really good reason to not have Disney Plus. Seriously, if a streaming service... it's like, I don't subscribe to Shudder because I don't care for horror movies. That's a really good reason not to subscribe to a horror streaming service. Don't like Disney movies? Yeah, I wouldn't recommend Disney Plus, because it's all Disney shit. All of it. And ESPN. Hulu is doo-doo? Yeah, I agree. Hulu is terrible. Technically. At least the last time maybe they've fixed it in the last however long it's been. But the last time I played with Hulu, oh god, it is just a notch. It is an unbelievably frustrating. Imagine if you were watching just regular TV and the commercials came on and then the commercials ended and then the show didn't start. It never returned from commercials. So you turn your TV off and you turn it back on and you tune the station back in and the commercials start playing again. Yeah, that's kind of what Hulu at least used to do, at least to me. Don't know if it does it anymore, but yeah, I don't like Hulu. Fixed point in the original is the death of the Ancient One. I would have to go back and watch the Doctor Strange movie. I don't recall them using specifically that lingo. But my interpretation based on my memory of a movie I saw 3 or 4 years ago, whenever it came out, was it wasn't I'm going to die because my death is a fixed point in the timeline, but I'm going to die because everyone does, and it's unavoidable. I'd have to go back and listen to what she's saying, but she's like, I tried to push back as far as I can, and I think she did, right? It was never, I die at specifically this point. It was, I die eventually. And she tried to prolong that, and I think she did, if I'm remembering right. So I don't know if that was a fixed point in the timeline, or just an acknowledgement that you can't live forever, we're not immortal, we are going to die someday. Which sucks, because, speaking personally, I don't want to. Because the thing that sucks about dying is there's going to be cool stuff happening after I pass away that I'm not going to get to see. And that blows. Whenever I die, there's going to be a Zelda game in the works that I'm not going to get to play. And that bums me right the hell out. Lindy says, just for not believing in God. I have had different people believe different things, but I have had people tell me that not believing in God is a ticket to hell. Some beliefs say that God doesn't care about what you do, only that you believe in God. So you can, be a horrible, murderous dickhead. But if you believe in God, welcome to heaven. But if you're a regular, decent chap, which I think of myself as a decent chap, but doesn't believe in God, well, can't tolerate that. To hell you go. To burn. Forever. Well, I sure hope that's not true, because that would suck. But yeah, that is what I have had more than one person tell me. That is what some people believe, and that's pretty terrible. Let's see. Jared says that's not the right mentality about the immortality. Don't know what that's referring to. Irrelevant says, please, I'm so tired of that worn out, you're going to hell for not doing what I want garbage I've taken up to say, well, good, that's where the party's at. It depends on what hell is, right? I don't believe in heaven or hell or afterlife or anything like that, for what it's worth, but the concept of hell has many different iterations. Boy, this podcast has taken a direction, isn't it? One of them is the whole lake of fire thing where your ass boils for all of eternity. You suffer, you are tortured for all of eternity, right? That's one concept of hell. Another concept of hell is simply the lack of God. Yet another concept of hell is just, and the lack of God, and it's hell because God's not there. The other concept, which is really similar, is this is just where dead people go when they don't go to heaven. You don't suffer. You're not tortured. You're just not in heaven. You're away from God. And if you don't care, well, I guess you don't really care. So there's a bunch of different versions of hell. So yeah, but yeah, yeah, it's I'm not really interested in I'm throwing a house party. Now, you're welcome to come to my house party. but you have to suck on my toes. I like that. And you have to suck on my toes for the duration of your stay. I deserve toe sucking, you see. Now, if you don't want to suck on my toes, that's fine, but you don't get to come to my house party, and in addition to that, I'm going to murder you and torture your ghost for all of eternity. Now, obviously, you don't want to be murdered and have your ghost tortured for all of eternity. No one does. But all you have to do is come to my house party, where you can suck my toes for all of eternity. I don't know about you, but I imagine most of you are like, oh, I don't want to go to your house party now. No, I don't want to suck your toes. I mean, your podcasts are okay, but I really don't want to suck your toes for eternity. No. I mean, I'm not really looking forward to having my ghost tortured forever, but I really don't want to hang out with you for all eternity either. You've just revealed yourself to be a really terrible person. Really, really bad. Bad Andrew. So, these same people I mentioned who said, you got to get right with God or you're going to burn, and I don't want you to burn, so you should get right with God. I'm like, well, I don't believe in what you're saying anyway. And I've seen nothing that convinces me of the truth of anything you've stated. But, like, I certainly don't want to suffer for all of eternity, or even a little bit of it. But I also don't want to hang out with your conception of God, because he sounds terrible. Like, what a prick. You know, doesn't matter what you do as long as you praise and love and worship me. If you praise and love and worship me, then you get all the good stuff. If you don't, torture forever. Like, wow, what an asshole. But you'd get to be in heaven and worship him. Yeah, I don't want to. I mean, I also don't want to. I mean, can I fake it? Is God okay with that? Wow, what a petty shithead. You know, this version of God that you believe in, I'm referring to specific people now, is an asshole. I hope you're wrong. I mean, because, man, I'm going to have a shitty afterlife if you just happen to be right. Let's see. Lee says, since the Beyonder and the most powerful being in the Marvel, would he be able to change the timeline without destroying it? I don't know. Could argue about it, but it really depends on whatever the writer wants, yeah? Jared says, hell's a punishment for evil deeds, sin, not believing in God. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Hell, in a lot of interpretations, hell is where sinners go, and not believing in God is a sin, so if you don't believe in God, you go to hell, right? I'm like, okay, but I can't believe things that I have no good reason to believe, you know? I mean, you can assert that you have a invisible unicorn in your garage, but I don't believe you. For a multitude of reasons. Number one, unicorns don't exist. At least so far as I know. Actually, let me change the animal. How about like a winged horse? That's an animal that definitely doesn't exist. Because there's nothing in the fossil record with that structure. I imagine I would not be terribly surprised if there were at some point some horse-like creature with a horn. You know, there are horses and there are creatures with horns. So that might not be far-fetched, but winged horses, that's not a thing. So you have an invisible horse in your garage. I don't believe you. And I have no reason to believe you. Because you're saying that a creature that doesn't exist, that can't possibly exist, doing something that can't possibly be done is in your garage. Yeah, I don't believe you. But, I mean, okay. I obviously can't come see it, but can I come, feel it? No. No, it's intangible, you see. Well, certainly I can smell it. It like poops. Nope, doesn't poop and has no smell. Does it eat anything? Can I watch like apples or whatever kind of disappear into the void of its mouth? No, it doesn't actually interact with anything. So you have an invisible, intangible, incorporeal being that has absolutely no effect on reality. You can't sense it with any. It cannot be detected or sensed in any way. But it's in your garage. I don't believe you. I have no reason to believe you. Even if it turns out that you are actually correct, there's no reason for me to believe that. So, I mean, you could rub my... If it turns out you're right, I don't know how you'd show it in this weird example, but even if it turned out you were right, you could rub my face in it all you want, but I'm not going to feel particularly bad about not believing in something that I have no reason to believe in the first place. So, let's see. Dude, hell is where the best loot is. That's right. It's all those treasure chests and stuff. Mostly jail for devil, I hear. He never wanted any humans there. Yeah, the devil or whoever runs hell's like, would you leave me in peace? Mine. It's my property. It's like a crotchety guy in a rocking chair and a shotgun. Get off my property! Start shooting at you, chasing you all over hell. Go to heaven, hang out with that God feller. Damn sinners. Inverted says, I legit had a few Jehovah's Witnesses come up to me in the street asking me if I was saved. I told them, yeah, I saved. Back there, so if I die, I can reload. That's pretty good. Are you saved? Yeah, I saved a while ago. So I saved scum my way through life. That's pretty good. I have not had a door-to-door evangelical in the last year and a half, so that's nice. I'd still prefer not having a pandemic that's killed millions of people worldwide, but and made even more sick, but silver lining. Normally when they showed up at my door, I just politely said no thank you and shut the door in their face. I do remember one guy, as I was closing, but wait, I can prove it! And I was just in a mood. And I don't know what religion this is. It doesn't matter. This is America, so it's probably some form of Christianity, but I really don't know. And I stopped and I said, you can prove what? And he goes, well, the Bible, or whatever book it was, I think it was the Bible, could have been something else, says, it made predictions. I said, what? And he says, well, there's stuff in the Bible that we couldn't have possibly known at the time. I said, all right. You got one shot here, buddy. Give me your best one. This was, I admit, it's kind of a dick thing to do, I suppose, but I was just in that kind of mood. His assertion was a very rudimentary depiction of the water cycle. Water evaporates and then precipitates. Was proof that the Bible or whatever holy book that was divinely inspired, because no one knew about the water cycle 2,000 years ago. I told him that number one, he's wrong by thousands of years. We've known about, we've been agricultural societies for a long, long time, So, and we've used the water cycle to do that. Even so, the water cycle is something you do not need a supernatural being to tell you about, because it's something you can just observe. You can look at a pond and you can see the water level go down. And then you can notice it rains and it fills back up. And then it goes back down, and then it rains and it fills back up. That's an observable cycle. Even if you don't understand the mechanics of evaporation, condensation, precipitation, you can at least observe the effect of what's happening. So, bye. Again, rude, dick thing to do, but it's just kind of where I was at that particular day. Toe sucking now? As I could have gone ass licking, but toe sucking was just funnier. To me, anyway. Could have gone much more vulgar than that, but I try to keep it somewhat clean. Wait, how do we go from house party to toe sucking to ghost torturing? Yeah, religion's weird, man. Especially mine. I am a weird dude. And I am sweating because it's hot in here. Not because I'm wonderfully turned on by the idea of people coming to my house and sucking my toes. Certainly not during a pandemic. Let's see. Jared says, do you think that a person deserves to be respected and obeyed from the perspective of a created being? Do I think a person deserves to be respected and obeyed from... I'm not sure how to take that from the perspective of a creator to created. If you're asking, do I think a creator deserves to be respected and obeyed by its creation? No, I don't. I believe that respect is earned, not owed. I don't care who you are. Now, me personally, I will, or at least I try, to give every person the benefit of the doubt. Meaning that you, one in general, has my respect by default until they lose it. And I think everyone has the potential to lose my respect, regardless of who they are in relation to me. Be that an elected official, one I voted for or one I didn't. Be that my parents or my children, which I don't have. So, no, I may not be quite getting your question right, but I don't think anyone deserves to be respected, and especially not obeyed, just because of who they are in relation to you. I believe that's earned, and I believe it can be lost. Lee says, with this 2021 stuff talk, I'm getting a hard time believing a lot. Yeah. Jared says, physics is more of a proof for a god? Physics is more of a proof for a god. I don't follow how physics is a proof for a god. Not following that. But anyway, well, that took a detour. Irrelevant says, tell them this, I can walk on water. If they ask you to prove it, just tell them no, you need to have faith that I can. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, a lot of religious people I know are very upfront about the fact that their belief Who's knocking on my door at 8:30 at night? Excuse me, won't you?
It's making a lot. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Wrong door?
Yeah, I want to do it.
No problem. Looked like someone ready to come in to suck my toes during a house party. There's a dude with a duffel bag, and he was like ready to walk on in until he realized he didn't know who the hell I was and didn't recognize this apartment. Wrong door. What was it talking about? A lot of the religious people I've spoken to are very upfront about the fact that their beliefs are based solely on faith. Which is hard for me to wrap my head around, because I would define, like, if what you believe in is supported by good evidence, then that's trust, right? But if what you believe in is not supported by good evidence, then that's faith. It's a belief in something that you don't really have a good reason to believe in. You just believe in it anyway. Me, I don't get that. That's a me thing, though. I just can't believe anything that I'm not convinced of. And I've listened to several religious people I know, and I never understood what convinced them of the truth of their proposition. But that may just be a me thing, and that may be their inability to explain stuff. Yeah. Let's see. We started on Marvel show and ended in religion. Well, yeah, I mean, it's short hop, skip, and a jump. Is he gonna get murdered? Really? Yeah. Why is Andrew opening the door at 8:30 at night? Yeah. I was hoping it wasn't a cop. Yeah, it's just some dude, shorts and a t-shirt and a duffel bag. Looks like he was just gonna go hang with some friends. Got the wrong apartment. Jared says, my point was about the complexity of math and physics could show that the world contains aspect of design, not randomness. Well, the world does contain aspects of design, but we're behind most of it. I mean, yeah, not all of it, granted. I mean, like a beaver dam is designed by beavers. You know, termite mounds are designed by termites, you know, and such. But I have seen... I've not seen anything that suggests that anything about the natural world is designed with intention by some external force. I'm not convinced of the truth of that assertion. So, Lee says, usually YouTube people get knock on door from cop. Oh, yeah, I suppose. Jared says to support the... that would depend on exactly how you define a god. Like, we can look at several things that show evidence of design, but we also know that we designed it, you know? Does that make us a god? I wouldn't say so. Again, it kind of depends on how you define God, but if you're talking about, like, Like chemical reactions, for example. Like, the old science fair volcano thing where you put baking soda in a paper mache volcano and you pour vinegar in and it explodes. Well, it doesn't explode, but you've seen these things, right? You may have done one yourself when you were young. If I'm reading Jared correctly, the idea is that the chemical reaction between baking soda and vinegar is a specifically directed action by some external intelligent force. I don't see any evidence that that would be the case. That's just what happens when vinegar and baking soda come. That's just a chemical reaction. Those two chemicals react that way when they come into contact under specific conditions. It's just what they do. I don't see any evidence to suggest that they do because someone dictated they do it that way. It's just what they do. Natural law like gravity, thermodynamics, that kind of stuff. None of which I see any suggestion of a god. Lee says, God or not God, the galaxy had got its start somehow. Perhaps. There are, from what I've read as a very lay person, many different models of the cosmos throughout, how the universe works through a function of time. And some of them would seem to have a starting point, so to speak, the Big Bang. But some other models suggest that the Big Bang would be, which is a really stupid name, but because a lot of people hear Big Bang and they're like, oh, an explosion. It's not what it is, but whatever. Common parlance, Big Bang. Some of the models suggest that the universe is cyclical. So it just, kind of goes in a circle. So there are some models that suggest that the universe is eternal, so it wouldn't have a beginning. It doesn't start, it just was. But there are some that say, yeah, it started. So the suggestion that God or no God, the galaxy got its start somewhere. Possibly, yeah. I mean, we do know that life, at least life as we understand it on this particular planet, started at some point. We don't know how. At least the last time I looked. I mean, this is not something I keep up to date on, but we do know that life started at some point. And what's interesting is we have several different, what's the word I'm looking for? Models, I suppose, of how life could have started. And it might not be specifically one of those. It may be several of them. But the interesting thing is we're probably unable to identify exactly, okay, life started here. Because it's probably more of a gradient. Because the way we define life, we are alive. Plants are alive, but we can also, it probably didn't just boop, living thing. The predecessors to living things were probably functional in some way, but wouldn't technically meet our modern definition of alive. So it's kind of like looking at a color gradient, right? From red to yellow. Imagine color gradient, red, yellow, gradiate between the two. It's like, okay, point to exactly where red turns into yellow. You can't. There's no specific spot where that happens. So that's probably, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, yeah. It's impossible to pick a specific spot on a gradient. I don't know if that relates to what you were saying or not, but anyway. Oh my god, can we please talk about video games or movies? What's your favorite 80s or 90s cheesy movie? Mine is Tremors. Ooh, Tremors is great. Friggin' love Tremors 1 and 2. Yeah, Tremors is great. 2 is a... They didn't have as much money as I'm sure they were hoping for, but Tremors 2 does a lot right. 3 was actually pretty good. Another one, low budget, but 4 was not as great, but had some fun ideas. The TV series I thought was actually pretty good. Then they started to really suck. I've seen the 5th, 6th, and 7th movies. I think they're really, really bad, and that's really unfortunate. I would have liked to see the new Tremors series. I think they shot a pilot for it. Saw some preview footage of it. Looked like it could have been neat, but was never picked up. And so far as I know, that pilot's not been made available for the public, which makes me sad. I'd really like to see that. Anime Momo says, when do I think the pandemic's going to end? Sadly, I don't think it is. I don't think it's going to end. I really hope I'm wrong about that. But enough people are uncooperative enough that this is just probably going to drag out forever. I really hope that's not the case. But I just don't see enough people changing their minds on subjects of public health and safety for us to not be in some form of pandemic from here on out. I really hope I'm wrong about that. We do know how life started, in character creation. There you go. Where God spent an insane amount of time customizing us and gave up before level 10. There you go. Lee says, no matter if it's true or not, it still would be boring to me either way. Not sure what that's in reference to. But, yeah. When do I think the pandemic's going to end? Well, I mean, specifically COVID-19, that'll probably end at some point. Although the virus, if the pandemic goes on forever, it's probably going to be a variant of COVID-19. So in that sense, it'll always be COVID-19, Unfortunately, there are just some people who are really not interested in playing ball, so to speak. I mean, we could have had this solved a year ago, but we, particularly America, specifically United States, decided, nah, this is too much work. We don't like it, so screw it. Whoever dies, dies. Now, certainly not everyone sees it that way, but enough people appear to see it that way that it's just going to keep the sucker going. And again, I really hope I'm wrong about that. Jared says, just a topic to think about. That's why giving an opposite viewpoint, so you might see some of the reasoning. On COVID side, people are starting to call it an endemic. I'd have to look up the dictionary definition between pandemic and endemic just to make sure I'm getting that right. So I don't think it'll go away because of the nature of the virus. Yeah, because I mean, we're already seeing different strains of it, and that's because it has the ability to change. If it had no place to change, then it wouldn't, and it would die out. You know, we've actually functionally done that before. It's why, you know, rubella and polio and mumps and measles aren't really a thing anymore, because we stamped that crap out. But for some reason, we have enough people in the right places that are just, again, not willing to play ball for whatever reasons. And that's sad, because more people are going to get sick and more people are going to die. And it didn't have to be that way. Still doesn't. I mean, you know, if you got enough people to change their mind, go, you know what? Let's just you know, get the free, widely available vaccine, and you know, wash our hands and wear masks when we're with other people in public places, and you know, stamp this crap out, like they did in what was it, New Zealand, where they pretty much stamped it out by, you know, staying home for a couple of months. You know, I'm a weird dude, hence the toe-sucking house party thing. Why would that even pop into my head? So I'm personally okay with the being at home thing. Like, I'm not a big fan of other people anyway, so it's like, Andrew, stay home away from other people. Mother, may I? Yeah. Are you sure that's okay? Woo! But I just don't want people to get sick or die. That's it. Da, 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 da. It will never end. We're just gonna learn how to live with it. So unfortunately, I mean, we don't have to, but yeah. But I would rather, you know, I would like to, you know, go to the movies without worrying about getting sick or making other people sick. That would be nice. I mean, I have Disney Plus, so I can watch Shang-Chi when it comes out on Disney Plus at home on October 18th or whenever it is. But still, you know, wouldn't mind eating in a restaurant. Wouldn't mind getting my hair cut. Cut my own hair today. I did okay. You know, professionals would do it better. But for me, nah, I'll stay home. Least I can do, I suppose. I mean, I still leave the house to, you know, I still go shopping. But, you know, wash my hands, wear a mask, stay 6 feet away from people where possible. I actually, I don't have the budget to order all my food online and have it delivered. But, yeah. Coronavirus been around longer before 2019. Well, yeah, COVID-19 is, yeah. Yeah, yeah. That type of virus has. It's how we. It's how we managed to get several vaccines relatively quickly. It's because this particular strain was new, but this type of virus wasn't new. It's been around for a long time, and we've been studying it and working on it for a decade plus. So we had a long head start in working on vaccines. So yeah. Um, if we didn't have a vaccine for smallpox, we'd still be plagued by smallpox. Yeah. That's one of the ones that we functionally eradicated, thanks to vaccines. Um, this vaccine will be the flu if people just vaxxed. All people have to do is vax and it will become no worse than flu. Um, Pretty much, yeah. 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 I mean, it might. I would. My personal classification, which makes no bit of damn difference at all, but if we were vaccinated to the point where the current strains of COVID were no longer killing a couple thousand people every week, um, um, if we got to the point where that wasn't an issue, but people could still get sick. We had to take booster shots every year. Occasionally you get sick, but rarely you die from it. I would consider that no longer the pandemic. But yeah, I unless something drastic changes, I just I don't see that happening. Like, those who are resistant, or at the very least resistant to vaccinating, do not seem to be swayed by anything. Um, I read a lot of individual anecdotes in the news from unvaccinated people who get sick, and I've seen reports of both unvaccinated people who get sick who are like, "Oh poop, I was wrong. Give me the vaccine." And it's like, well, you're sick. You can't have a vaccine now. If you don't die, then you can have it later. But I see some people, even if they get sick, even if people close to them, like in their own families, die, they're still not swayed. I don't know what you do. If you genuinely don't care about the health or lives of those closest to you, I don't know what you do care about. I have seen, again, this is all anecdotal, but I have seen individual cases of, like I just read in the paper today, about a woman whose 19-year-old daughter died from COVID. And the last thing she of course was not able to be at her daughter's side when she passed. The last communication she had with her daughter was over the phone, and her daughter was screaming in terror before they hooked her up to a ventilator. No one should have to go through that. And in this specific case, didn't have to go through that. Neither the kid or the mother or the rest of the family, who reportedly are all scheduled to get vaccinated now. Which, I mean, that's good. I'm sorry a loved one had to die screaming for that to convince them. I really wish that didn't have to be the case. But these individual anecdotes, though they do happen, I don't know that they're indicative of any sort of positive trend that's large enough to really make a difference. I don't have the answers. Shit, if I did, I'd run for office. But I don't know. I don't know what to do. I can, what I can do is, stay home as much as I can. When I do go out, wear a mask when I'm around other people. Stay 6 feet away as much as I can. And wash my hands regularly. I don't feel that's asking too much. Oh, and I got vaccinated as soon as I could. I could have got vaccinated earlier, but I'm kind of a stickler for playing by the rules. My industry technically qualifies as an emergency service, so I could have been vaccinated earlier, but I don't work out in the field. I work at home, so it would have been fibbing to put myself, to get a vaccination in like February or whenever. So I didn't. I think that was the right call because I think people who actually do work out in the field were a higher priority than me, who is home most of the time. Wish I had the answers, but I don't. Let's see. Sadly, I'm not wrong. Yeah, I would love to be wrong about some of the things I seem to be right about. Like, I'm horribly cynical. I'm very pessimistic. I have a very negative view of humanity and people in general, and I wish I were proven wrong about that more often than I am. I used to have some pretty grandiose ideas when I was a kid. Like, I thought we were, when I was little, when I was a youngin', I used to think, man, we got rid of racism, we got rid of sexism. As soon as we get this homophobia crap under our thumb, we've made it. We've reached the dream. Perfect world where everyone lives in harmony and happiness and equality for all. I was a stupid child. I was wrong. I mean, not only was I wrong about the as soon as we lick homophobia, then everything's fine, but yeah, I was wrong about racism and sexism being solved. I imagine that's a function of exactly where and how I grew up. When you're a young person, growing up in the days without the internet, and you don't see any racism, there must be no racism. Which is kind of a weird thing because I didn't see any cows, but I wasn't convinced cows were extinct just because I didn't see any around, right? Of course, there was milk in the store, so there's some evidence right there. But yeah, no getting around it. I was a pretty stupid child with inaccurate views of humanity and the world at large. Matthew says New Zealand is back in lockdown. Yeah, from what I read that's like a week or two ago. It's like they had one positive case and they're like, lock that shit down. We're not screwing with this. Lock it down, all of it. But it seems to work. So that's mostly because of right-wing people that won't take it because they believe in one certain person. That's some of it. Yeah. Whether you and I regard a person as trustworthy or not, whether we can demonstrate that that person is or is not trustworthy, if a person believes what that person tells them, I don't know what to do. Like, I mean, you can argue facts and logic at all of Manson's followers, right? I mean, you could pull one of them aside and it's like, really? I mean, if you actually listened to this guy, what he's saying not only is completely nonsensical, it's factually untrue. And it wouldn't matter. Cults of personality can be very dangerous. This is true. And it can be, it can be very dangerous. So if a person has a lot of people that unquestionably believe whatever they say, regardless of if the reasons are good, and they deliver bad information, purposefully or not, the effect is the same. So, yeah. Irreverence is pandemic is large-scale outbreak. Endemic is localized regional outbreak. Well, I would say it's a pandemic then, because it's, worldwide. Doesn't get more pan than that. Matthew says the irony is a certain person has told them to take the vaccine and got booed. Yeah, it's kind of like the Frankenstein's monster thing, where Frankenstein's like, okay, Frankenstein's monster, now don't throw little kids in the creek. I told Frankenstein's monster not to throw kids in the creek. Sometimes you create your monster and it's a monster and you can't tell it what to do. A lot of times with cults of personality, it appears that the followers don't so much listen to and believe the figurehead so much as they react to what they want to hear. And if Charles Manson completely pulled a 180 and started reversing course, his followers, do you think his followers would have went, oh, we should stop doing that? Oh, okay. Cool, Charlie, cool. Probably not. They probably kicked the shit out of him. I mean, I don't know, but yeah. And I feel like, who cares what I feel, but observing from my comfy chair, it appears that a lot of the time, people listen to people who say what they want to hear, and the people saying it are only saying it because that's what the people who are listening to them want to hear. And what Matthew said is a good example. It's like, oh, but get vaccinated. Boo. Okay, don't. But, it's a free country and it's your choice, and backpedaling a bit. Yeah. Doesn't stand for anything, has no opinions on anything, just says what people want to hear. And I wonder where I fall in that kind of dichotomy. Like, I'm not special. I'm not terribly smarter than any particular person, I don't think. So, would I be susceptible to someone saying untrue things, but things that I wanted to hear? I don't know. I hope not. Might be cushioned by the fact that what I want to hear are true things, and I have a habit of, especially if it's a source I'm unfamiliar with, of verifying to see if it's true or not. Like, generally speaking, if I hear someone said a thing, usually what I do is I go and look up what they said, and usually the surrounding context. That's me, though. I mean, especially if it's something like something I see on Facebook, right? Oh, well, this politician said this thing. I'm like, did they? Let's go see what they actually said and what the surrounding context actually is. And it may be true, but that's how I operate, and I think that's probably pretty good practice for most people, and might be worth teaching those types of skills in school. Digital media literacy kind of things. I think that could be helpful, because it seems that a lot of people just, if they see something that feels right to them, they'll just be like, that must be true because it feels right. That's what I always suspected. Okay, but is that true? The Moderna vaccine was made by a data center in 2 days. Well, I know the genome was sequenced very quickly, so that's pretty rad. Then it took like a year of testing. Yeah, I mean, even with that's kind of the problem with some turns of phrases. They're not. I don't know if they're not explained. Turn of phrase. Emergency use authorization is not a turn of phrase. It's a thing. The problem is a lot of people hear emergency use authorization, and what they hear is, just start sticking that shit in people's arms with no testing. And if that's genuinely what a person thinks, you can understand why they might be hesitant, right? So, is it worth clarifying that what an emergency use authorization actually is? You might argue it's incumbent upon a person to go fucking look it up and see what it is, but most of us aren't going to do that. We're just going to make an assumption and see someone confirm our assumption. You see it on Facebook, and it's like, that's what I thought it was. And then it's just drilled in there. And how do you fight that? I don't know. Well, one thing that I advocate for is as someone who wrote news for a while. I wrote for Game Politics for like a decade. How do you report a falsehood? How do you report on information that is untrue? My approach, and I think this is a good approach, is to lead with what the truth is, then why it's true, and then talk about what the misinformation is. And so here's a true thing, here's why it's true, now here's the dumb shit you're probably hearing. But because I already led with this, you go, oh, well, now I understand why that's crap. Too many times I see headlines that are like, this person says this thing, when the thing in question is like demonstrably untrue. And the article may say, and it turns out that the thing the person said is untrue. Well, the problem is everyone just saw the headline. Person says thing X, and now all they know is thing X. Even if you subsequently prove X wrong, they're just going to remember thing X. Generally speaking, that's kind of how our brains work. So you lead with the truth. Seems to be the better approach. Even I would also, again, I'm nobody and I probably shouldn't be listened to, but I recoil when I see articles that say, person says this, comma, falsely. No, stop doing that. Because even though you suffixed it with the falsely, or even if you prefix it, like, so-and-so falsely claims that fact, that big fact is what a lot of people are just going to take away. So Please stop doing that, news media. You're making things worse. Where are we in the chat here? Jared, I would like more transparency information about vaccines before you get... Well, it's... I don't know what specifically you want to know, but I would imagine that... I can't imagine there's anything that you would really want to know that isn't publicly available information at this point. Like, if you want to know the ingredients, that's long been available. If you want to know how the efficacy was tested, how the various trials have been conducted, all that information's out there. So I agree that transparency and information is a good thing, and we should be as transparent and accurate in our information as possible. So I would wager that whatever information you're looking for is actually available. Unless you want to know, like, the home address of someone who specifically sequenced the genome or something. Probably not going to find that. But, yeah, things like ingredients, how the various efficacy trials were run, that kind of information, that's all out there. Yeah, as Matthew points out, the makeup of the MMA vaccines are available, as is the genetic sequence too. That's true. I don't know what. Well, I don't know what you do for a living, Jared, but the genetic sequence of is not going to do me any good. I can't do anything with that. It's cool, but yeah, that particular bit of information is useless to me. But let's see. The vaccine rates are up a good 40%. They are climbing. Like as I said, the more people get sick and die, the more people who get sick and the more people who die leads directly to the more general people know somebody who gets sick and die, and the more likely they are to take this stuff seriously. Like, the mom who lost her 19-year-old daughter. Unfortunately, it took her daughter dying in a really horrific manner. I really wish it hadn't come to that. For the sake of the daughter who died and everyone who knew and loved her, because that's friggin' horrible. It's generally when a natural disaster happens and people die, it's tragic, but with the exception of things like preventative measures, safety precautions, if the earth just opens up and swallows someone, that's tragic, but that's a thing that happens and it blows. But with this particular young woman who died, that was preventable. That shouldn't have happened. Now, if the earth opens up and swallows her, that sucks, and that was probably not foreseeable and not preventable in any meaningful way. But her getting sick and dying of COVID, her whole family got COVID, by the way, only she died. That was almost certainly preventable. At the very least, the death. If her family was vaccinated, it's very unlikely they would have gotten sick in the first place, and it's even less likely any of them would have died. So that makes it even more tragic. And as I've been stating, at the end of the day, I just don't want people to get sick or die. Even people I don't like. I don't wish suffering or death on anyone. even bad people who do bad things to hurt other people. I just wish they'd stop hurting other people. And I'm an angry person, you know. I get really angry, but I try not to, let like revenge. I hope you die, you know. Like I keep seeing a bunch of people with large platforms who have railed against vaccinating keep getting COVID, and several of them have died. Am I happy about that? No. It's perhaps callous to say, but I'm glad that they can't do any more harm, being dead and all. But I don't and didn't want them to die in order to reach that result, if that makes sense. Let's see. Jared said there's little knowledge about potential side effects. There's significant knowledge about potential side effects. That information is out there too. Oh, future? I mean, if you're talking 20 years down the road, okay, but this type of vaccine is not new, so we do have evidence of people's limbs not spontaneously falling off 20 years after being vaccinated. There is no evidence to suggest anything beyond the general side effects of local irritation and stuff like that being side effects of these vaccines. But we do have evidence of the side effects of not taking the vaccine. And that's getting very ill, passing it to other people who could get very ill, and dying. So, while there is a ridiculously small, almost impossible chance that decades removed consequences to this vaccine may be discovered, there's no evidence to suggest that there is. And even if there were, there's no evidence to suggest that it would be worse than the consequences of getting COVID. So all the side effects of taking a vaccine are much lighter than getting sick. So I would encourage you to get vaccinated if you've not already. Irreverent says, expect the worst and you'll never be disappointed. Yeah, I suppose. But it's, how awful is it to be always expect the worst and never be pleasantly surprised? It's like, oh, come on. You know. Lee says internet was around for a long time before the 80s, so you have not have internet. The internet as it exists today was not a form of electronic communication. Yeah, the internet did exist in 1980 when I was born, but it wasn't the same thing we have today. I mean, the internet of today, even the internet of, say, early 2000s, even the internet of like 96, 97, which was pretty much chat rooms, message boards. I knew it when I was in high school in the mid to late 90s, 94 to 98. I knew some people with the internet. You had to dial on. And it took forever to dial on, and it was boring because there was nothing there. It was just all chat rooms and message boards and stuff. Also, I didn't have a computer until college. So even if the internet as it existed today did exist when I was a kid, I didn't have a computer anyway, so I couldn't access it. But the internet did exist in a form when I was a baby. Let's see, where are we? Do I think there's more people died from this than smallpox? I don't know, but I bet you could look that up. Maybe the Black Plague was more... I don't know, but... don't know about that plague, but smallpox, I bet, has numbers that we could compare. So, but I don't really care which one is more. I do know that it's about 1 million people in America alone in the last year and a half that are dead now. Much more have gotten really sick. And it's millions of people worldwide. So that's a lot of people, and it's changed life everywhere, and not in a particularly good way. I mean, there are silver linings here and there, like no evangelicals coming to my door, but not a trade I'd be willing to make for others' health and safety. It's like, Andrew, no more evangelicals showing up at your door, but about 1 million people will die in the next year and a half. No, I'm not going to... No, I'll deal with the evangelicals, thank you. So I don't care to compare and contrast the death and sick numbers compared to other outbreaks and plagues and pandemics. I don't care. I care in regards to whatever value that information could impart, but I certainly would not. It's like, well, this is less deadly than something else, so let's not worry about it. No. Lots of people are dead. Lots of people are going to die. Lots of people are sick. Lots more people are going to be sick. That's not a good thing. Is there something we can do about it? Yep. So... I hope we do. Still, Viper, hey, haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? Still think more needs doing. Unfortunately, after the first shot, I developed a heart condition. Cardiologist and doctors confirmed shot was to blame. Unfortunately, can't now have second shot. Matthew's talking about old internet, Usenet. Well, that's interesting. I heard a person that served smallpox also served COVID. What? I don't know what that means, Lee. Unless you're talking about a person who survived smallpox also survived COVID-19? That's an older person. Good on him if that's true. Well, Viper, that's why we need to vaccinate as many people as we can, because some people can't get vaccinated. And apparently you're one of them. So it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure those who can't be vaccinated are protected. So I know not everyone can. Some people are immunocompromised in some way. That prevents them from being vaccinated. And so, for me, it comes down to, if you can be vaccinated, please do. Yeah, I suck at spelling too. See, I don't have to worry about spelling. I just yammer at you. And it's 9:20, so I've been yammering about this forever. So we're going to stop the podcast here. Tomorrow, For the Sunday stream, good lord, it is hot in here. Yeah. So, Viper, I'm doing okay, just recovering. Hope you're staying safe. Fortunately, normal people, at least here in England, are very selfish and don't really care about others' safety. That appears, sadly, to be the case for a lot of people. Yeah. Even if it's not, it has the same effect. So, yeah, but hope you're doing all right. So tomorrow for the Sunday stream, we're doing a Patreon reward video. So if you support me on Patreon, $10 a month for an entire year, I'll do a video for you. Brian met that goal, and he wanted me to play Dark Souls. So tomorrow I'm going to play Dark Souls. It's got souls. They're very dark. I've never played this game before. I've never played any game in this series. I haven't played Demon Souls. I've not played Bloodborne. I'm probably going to die hard, a lot, and I'm probably going to get frustrated and throw my controller at my TV or something like that. So it should be fun for the entire family. So join me, won't you, tomorrow at noon Pacific Standard Time for a rousing play of Dark Souls until I get frustrated and turn it off and storm off in a huff. Until I rage quit. So, alright. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me for the last 2.5 hours. I did not expect this to go that long, but hey, you know, I wanted to keep this to an hour. I deliberately had only 2 topics to help keep it for an hour, and here we are 2.5 hours later. I blame you, chat. I blame you. Alright, have a good night everyone. Hope to see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.